never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditties. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz in the house. That's right. And we do have a rescheduled tea time. That's why we are here on a Monday, and we will be back tomorrow on Tuesday and Thursday. But we have an incredible returning guest in the house. We have Dr. Katherine Hutchinson-Hayes in the house, and we're going to be talking about her book, A Fifth of the Story. We talked a little bit about it the first time she was on, but we're going to dig deeper into her story tonight in that book, and we're going to talk about other things, including her tea is transcending, embracing, and envision. That's right, she is teaching tea like Miss Liz, and we're getting it out there. We're going to dip deep into that tea. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, all those good platforms, and give those a like, follow, and subscribe, and get these tea times out, because they all do make a difference for my guests and for the listeners out there. We do make a difference with a cup of tea. So let's get started with the disclaimer and then a nice, beautiful intro, and we're going to get Dr. Katherine in here, and we're going to spill some tea together, and we're going to have some fun. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by the guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email, bookingmissliz@gmail.com, or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time, where stories meet courage and words become instruments of light. Today's guest is someone who writes with purpose and speaks with conviction, reminding us that truth has the power to pierce even the darkest places. Joining us is Dr. Katherine Hutchinson-Hayes, author, editor, podcaster, speaker, and the educator who blends faith, creativity, and resilience. As the production editor for the Embolden Media Group and the host of Murder, Mystery, and Mayhem Laced with Mortality, Katherine brings depth and discernment to storytelling that challenges, inspires, and restores. Her thriller, A Fifth of the Story, showcases her ability to weave suspense with meaning, while her leadership across literacy and educational communities reflects her heart of mentoring, service, and integrity in the creative world. So grab your cup and settle in. Today we explore how writing becomes courage, how faith fuels creativity, and how words can illuminate the way forward. Let me get Katherine in here and let's spill some tea. Welcome, Katherine.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. It is nice to see you again.
Yeah,
I believe you were on season 4 or 5. I can't remember what season you were on.
Yeah. I don't remember either. But it was a good season, whatever season it was.
It's been a while. Well,
Yeah.
Catherine, for my first time listeners who might be tuning in tonight, who is Dr. Catherine as a little girl, and who is Catherine now?
Oh, as a little girl?
Yeah. We always
Oh,
want to get the little girl first.
as a little girl first, well, one thing is true that's never changed is I have always been fascinated and in love with words. I wanted to write so badly that when I was 4, I would trace my parents' letters. They were big into writing letters. They lived in a variety of different countries, and then they were used to writing letters. And so I love story time. I would make anyone around me read me a story. I would tell people to talk it to me because I wanted them to act it out and be dramatic. So I was really into words, loved stories, and was extremely creative and artistic as a little girl. And my parents we didn't have a television for religious reasons. And it helped me in terms, and I think all of my siblings, in terms of our creativity, we would just make up games, make up stories. I wrote plays, and I had my brothers and sisters, act in them, and I was a director. So my life as a young person was filled with stories from the very beginning, and it started from my father, who loved story time. He memorized pages and pages of poetry and prose, and he consistently read to us from all kinds of books like the Iliad and the Canterbury Tales and all kinds of work from Mark Twain. So it started from there.
And who is Catherine now?
So Catherine still loves words. And I'm really still very creative, absolutely love plays. I've written a number of them, got to direct a few of them, but it just looks a little different now with experience and now being in the publishing industry for a while.
I like that you added that word experience in there.
Yeah, a lot more experience, so I have learned to edit quite a bit. In fact, I think one of the best things I could have done is actually work as an editor. It helped to make me a better writer.
I like that you added that word experience because it shows growth, right? It shows that you really matured and took all the little things like make up stories and story time, fascinating with words. And that's what you've actually done with your book, the book called A Fifth of the Truths. I kind of like the title of your book. So I'm going to pull up your book and we can talk about that as well. Because that's where the story time comes in, right? We can talk about your story.
That's right. Yeah.
So for all my audio listeners out there, Catherine, can you describe a little bit of what the cover looks like and the story behind the cover and the story itself?
Yeah, so I really love the cover. I feel like the artist did an incredible job. And you'll see on there is our main character, our protagonist, who's Brock O'Reilly. He's featured there. You can see that he's a CIA agent. He's on a special force. And you can see in the background, the backdrop of Washington, D.C. And you can see there's lots going on there. There are fire. It seems like there's fire going on out there. And it reminds me of like a movie trailer poster, And so the cover itself says a lot about what the book is about.
So where did you get the title from?
So it was, most of my stories start with the seed of an idea and I branch out from there. And I had actually written a couple other books and I really thought I had something with this one book It's 90 pages, 90,000 words of hot garbage, to be honest with you. But the seed of the idea was there. And that seed was, there's your side of the story, there's mine, there's what other people see, there are the facts, and then there's what God sees and what he thinks about it. And the premise is, if we live for that 1/5 of the story, which is what God sees and what he thinks about it, you will lead a good life. And I took that same premise and moved it over to this book, A Fifth of the Story. Completely different characters, totally different storyline, but the same premise.
Well, Catherine, I remember when you came on Tea Time the first time, I thought that this was based on a true story, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So does this story have a little bit of truth to your life?
Yeah. So the story is, it's a espionage, suspense, thriller, a really fast-paced plot centered on the CIA and later on the FBI. But even though it is totally fictional, right? It is based on real things that have happened, and I had to completely change the time, the place, the characters involved, and all of that. And I had knowledge of some of these incidents because my husband worked in military intelligence in what is known as the DIA, which is similar to the CIA, but only for the military. And so there were some really interesting things that took place that I knew about, and were declassified, where I could, even though they're declassified, I still feel like I'm called to really protect our military intelligence. So I change everything about the incident. You wouldn't be able to tell which incident I was talking about. And the opening scene is a true thing that happened, but in another place in the world that really disturbed me because it involved children. And it's done very tastefully. It's not, because my heart can't take stuff that happens to kids, but it shows that even when our military intelligence, which is primarily based to collect data and information to make sure that people in the United States is safe. And so the CIA, they do that outside of the United States, right? The FBI does it here on the United States soil. And they operate in very different ways. They're similar, but very different. And so, to make a long story short, yes, it is a fictional story, but it is based on real things that have happened. And what's even more frightening was a research I did for the book is about terrorist operations. And I always wonder, like, how do people succumb to do unthinkable things to other people? Like, how do they get to that place? And it's studying terrorist organizations, studying how they infiltrate military intelligence agencies or the highest intelligence agencies in the country, which has really been happening. We've been having these breaches. How does it happen? And I got into a deep dive of some of our most dangerous terrorist organizations in the United States. And a lot of times people in the US think that it's always terrorists, it's always someone from outside the country. But unfortunately, we are our worst enemies. Like our issues are with us. And so that is what the book, the true parts are about.
I thought, if I recall right, Catherine, when we spoke about the book the first time, we talked about the worst enemy being right in our own country, correct?
We spoke about what? I'm sorry?
About the worst enemies are right in our own
backyard,
right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we had a question that just came in, and it says, what inspired your thriller, A Fifth of the Story, and what themes do you explore in it?
Oh, that's a good one. So So I wrote it because I knew a lot about military intelligence because of my husband and what he did. And he spent a good portion of our marriage out of the country. And so I had the knowledge, and I also had access to people who work in that industry. So I could write things that were very realistic. So that was the inspiration behind that. And of course, combined with the seed of an idea that I couldn't let go. And a fifth of the story is really a layered exploration of truth, allegiance, and moral clarity in a world where appearances are deceptive and loyalty is constantly tested. So it's an intelligence breach of national consequences and a ticking clock threat following an attack on U.S. soil. And our main character, our protagonist, he uncovers evidence of this organization that has infiltrated the highest levels of intelligence, and this danger escalates rapidly, not only to national security, but to his personal safety and the lives of those he trusts the most.
Well, we have a couple of more questions that just came in for your book, and they want to know a character who surprised you the most that you wrote about.
A character who surprised me the most, there are a couple of them. There would be Dr. Liz Harper. She's a director in the CIA. And people when you're an author, you get it. And it's fun to share this with people who read and they don't write. So you know behind the scenes. You don't always know exactly who your characters are until you write them. You have an idea, you have a character sketch, but that character comes to life on the page. It's magical. And I didn't know that there was a softness to her because she's so different from me. She's very black and white. She sees the world black and white. That's it. She's not touchy-feely. But as I got to know her, I was really surprised about her heart. And then who surprised me was a secondary character who I fell in love with so much that she got her own book. And that is Patricia Pang, or Patty Pang. She's a wife of one of Brock's closest friends. And she's a feisty person, and she surprised me. She was just really going to kind of make some cameos, and she just started demanding more and more attention. And I was really shocked by that. And even, like I said, she got her own book.
And another one that just came in, the hardest scene you had to write emotionally or spiritually in this book?
Oh, that's such a good question. So the hardest scenes for me were the issues that with children. So there are some children in there who are in significant danger. There's someone after to kill an entire family. And I was really afraid for the children. I was terrified for them. Because what I do is I paint my characters into a corner and I have no idea how they're going to get out. I usually sleep on it and it will come to me, the next day or something to that effect. So technically what I like to do is write myself into a corner, something horrific. I'm like, I don't know how this kid's going to survive this. And I go to sleep and I wake up the next morning. I've been obviously thinking about it. And then I get on that computer and I write out what happened. So that was terrifying. The other thing, I believe that was hard for me was the way that Brock thought was different from me. I'm a person of faith, but Brock is not. He's not a Christian. And he questions Christians and how people believe, and he wonders, what is this all for? Like, why are we here? Like, this world is a hot mess, and he has some really deep dives into what faith is all about. And that was tough for me. That was hard.
So we have a question here, and it says, one truth you believe every storyteller needs to hear. So do you say some truths in this story, Catherine?
Can you repeat that question?
It says, one truth you believe every storyteller needs to hear.
One truth every. I think every storyteller should have a part of their heart woven organically into the narrative, not as a moral shortcut, but as a source of tension and resolve.
I like that question. That was an interesting question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
We have a bunch of questions that are popping up, so I'm just trying to stay with the storyline, and then other questions I'll pop them in here in a bit. What first ignited your passion for writing stories that pierce the darkness, Catherine?
Yeah, well, if you are alive, if you're on this side of the grass, you can see that this can be a very dark world, and there are a lot of things that are dark, and I can be drawn to the dark side, but I love resolve, and in my heart of hearts, I'm a very positive, upbeat person. I'm not even just a person who looks at the glass and see it half full. If it's half full, I'm going to fill it up. But I do flirt with pessimism and the what if, and I can be cynical at times. That is definitely true. But I feel like at the heart of it, my goal is to flesh out deep questions that we have and to answer them through our stories. I'm not sure if I answered that question correctly.
Well, storytelling sometimes does get dark and heavy. We have to get those heavy parts out in order to get the story a little lighter at the end. Now, in your book, do you start off heavy and close it up light, or does it start off light and get heavier and then light?
My stories always start right in the middle of the action. You get right into the action. I'm sorry.
She's not wasting no time. She gets right in there. Well, the cup is half empty. She's filling it up, right?
I just get right in there, and maybe that's because I tend to think in a thematic, cinematic way. I'm very visual. I love, I just love to see what something looks like. So I try to create that for our reader.
Another question that just came in for you, Catherine, is how do you navigate writing more clarity grounded stories in genres often centered around crime and mystery? I'm not sure if I'm saying that word right. Morally.
Oh, morality. Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do because of the darkness in the world. I really like to it's like even the title itself, it signals one of the book's central questions. How much of the truth are we actually seeing? And nowadays it's tough, especially with AI. It's hard to know what's real sometimes, right? We hear the term fake news all the time. And so for me, I really want to challenge my characters to act with courage and integrity, even when the cost is high and the outcome is uncertain. And the approach allows a novel to speak to readers, especially even Christian readers, because I'm writing from a Christian worldview, but I wouldn't necessarily say, everything I write is a Christian novel, because I don't want to alienate fans of mainstream thrillers. And faith is present in my novels, but it's tested, much like loyalty and friendship. It's not this blind faith. And if people who consider themselves people of faith, they have to be honest. Like there are times when you doubt, you question, you wonder. You don't always have it, you know, you don't always have this perfect faith where you're just constantly believing.
Absolutely. And sometimes things happen in our life and it shifts the faith for a second. And then we're just like, whoa, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
And that. When you wrote this book, Dr. Katherine, did you find things in your research that surprised you?
Yeah, I was really shocked. My intention was just to kind of do an overview of this one particular organization, and I delved into it and into, well, what is the biggest threat to our national security? And earlier I had said, it's us. We're our worst enemy. But I was shocked that we still have major issues with racism and extremism, and it's embedded within systems that are meant to protect. And one of the most dangerous and deadly extremist organizations in our country, in the United States of America, are white supremacists, and it is terrifying. So I was terrified by the data that I was collecting. My book, it's probably a third of the research that I did. The research I did was way longer and filled with all kinds of information. And I took a fraction of that and talked about the different organizations. So there is an organization in the book. They're sort of the antagonist in the story and their leader. But all of the other facts, all of the other organizations that I mentioned in that book are real books. I mean, not real books, but real organizations that exist right now and that are a major threat to the citizens of America.
So, Katherine, you collected a lot of research. So is there a second book coming out?
I actually have 5 books in mind. One is being shopped by she's being shopped by my agent right now. And the working title of that book is by the Zeal of Fire. And that's the one where, Patty Payne wanted her own book. So it's her whole backstory. And then I'm almost done with the third book in the series that deals with actually Patricia Payne's mother, who is an immigrant. And you want to talk about dark, but it's a dark premise, but it's done tastefully. Like I said earlier, my heart can't take bad things that happen to children, so I have to do it in a way that we can stomach it, but still learn. And it's actually about human trafficking. And that story is also filled with the research for that book also took me down a whole rabbit hole. It's a little traumatic to look at especially child trafficking and how it has impacted not just other countries. And we think, a lot of times in developed countries, we think that's happening to other people, but it's actually impacting a lot of things that happen in countries like America.
Wow. So that's the third book, and you said
that's the third book, and the fourth and fifth book are outlined and ready to go.
So we got a lot more tea times coming together.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I want to talk about your tea tonight, and your tea that you gave me was transcending, embracing, and envision, and that is what tea time is all about: is the transcending, embracing, and envision. But what you gave me, I want to just read to the listeners. I am transcending what tried to break me, embracing what God is doing in me, and envisioning the extraordinary life that lies ahead. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in transcending, I've had some really difficult things happen to me as a child, and those things tried to break me. So I'm a survivor of sexual abuse, and it happened unfortunately, and that's how much abuse to children happen through someone close to the family. It wasn't like a relative or anything like that, but someone affiliated with the church. And so later on, it actually became one of the case studies in my doctoral dissertation. And later on, I was able to use that experience to be able to counsel. I actually volunteer in a crisis center where I do counseling in crisis situations. And I'm called to voluntarily do this. And because I saw how impactful it was when I worked as a school principal, and I had some tough cases with young children, teenagers who were sexually abused, and I thought, man, if it was just because I needed to be there for these children, then it was worth it, because I could really identify with them, I could support them and counsel them because I'd gone through it.
And you're embracing what God is doing in me. What is God doing in you, Katherine?
So yeah, he is taking my creativity and using it to glorify him. So even if I write a shoot 'em up, bang bang thriller, I'm still offering you hope. If I feature books, I have a podcast. It's Murder, Mystery, and Mayhem Laced with Morality. And some of the books that I feature, they're kind of dark. And some of the people I interview experts in the industry, detectives, pathologists, morticians, CIA agents and FBI agents. And not everything they're having to say is uplifting about things that are happening, but I want to embrace whatever platform I have, whatever gift I have, to bring light so that things aren't hopeless. Things aren't all dark. Yes, there's lots of darkness. Yes, I do flirt with the dark side, but I always know I feel like the light is always going to overcome the dark, no matter how it looks. That light is so powerful that it has the power to impact any trauma, any darkness in our lives, any challenge, any tragedy.
Well, speaking from a survivor to another survivor, we know that darkness because we go into that darkness when we're abused.
Yes.
And I think that's what tells a story. We're able to bring the light to the story because we felt that darkness. We understand the darkness.
Yeah.
So we're able to help others who are going through it or who are afraid to speak of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I want to get into that. I want to get deeper into your podcast because your podcast hits on dark stuff, but it brings the truth to the table. And I'm all about truth because the truth needs to be told in order for us to resolve and bring solution to a lot of darkness out there in the world. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and some of the guests that you've had on that surprised you a lot.
Oh, wow. Well, the podcast, it's called Murder, Mystery, and Mayhem Laced with Morality, and it's a storytelling podcast that dives into crime fiction, suspense, morally complex narratives while keeping the conversation grounded in purpose and principle. And so each episode, it explores a craft behind mysteries and thrillers, spotlighting authors and books and real conversations about justice and consequence and redemption. And so while the subject matter may involve darkness and danger, the heart of the podcast is thoughtful. It's values driven. It's explaining or examining how stories of crime can reflect truth, accountability, and hope. It's a space where gripping plots, they meet these we have meaningful discussions about them. And it's a place where writers and readers alike, they're invited to think deeper about the moral threads woven into mystery and mayhem. And sometimes we have authors who write outside of those genres, and then we really dive into the craft and the how did you get an agent? How did you get published? Were you indie published or traditional? And all that good stuff.
I want to talk about a little bit because you do a lot of different services as well. You do book launches and editing. Let's talk about that a little bit, Katherine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do freelance for a few traditional publishers, but the majority of my clients are my own clients that I've met usually through writers' conferences or word of mouth or maybe speaking events or something to that effect. And I have some long-term editing clients that we've been working on multiple books, multiple projects, and that's wonderful. Like some of us, we've become friends. Some of them, I actually am publishing some of their books. I opened a publishing company in June called Dressed in Love Press, and yeah, some of those same clients, I ended up actually publishing their books. So that was super fun.
I like how this just flows because that was on my list here in my journal was Dressed in Love and Press. And I was just like, I love when my guests just flow to tea.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that Dressed in Love Press.
Yeah, so it's a traditional mission-driven publishing company, and it's created to serve both authors and readers with excellence and integrity. And we publish stories that are clean, compelling, and meaningful, books that they entertain. Some of them entertain, some of them are teach. They offer hope, depth, heart, and we publish in a multiple of genres. But our focus is on storytelling, strong editorial standards, genuine partnerships with our authors. And so authors don't pay to get published. Instead, we invest in their work. We walk alongside them through the publishing process and help bring their stories into the world in a way that it reflects purpose, professionalism, and care. And at its core, the press is about stewarding stories well and publishing with intention, love, and lasting impact.
So how did you come up with the name Dressed in Love?
Well, it's my tagline. It's a spin of my author tagline, which is dressing in God's love through the spoken and written word. And so I thought, that would be just a natural segue. Dressed in Love Press sounds good to me.
I just like it. Dressed in Love. Like, what would it look like? What colors would it look like, Katherine? Dressed in
Red,
Love.
all the way. Well, I love red. It's my favorite color. So definitely red.
And the reason that I went that way, guys, is because I'm going to tell you her favorite colors now. When I asked Katherine what her favorite colors were red, black, and burgundy. Why those three colors, Katherine?
Because they're bold. And I'm sorry, the black is, I grew up in New York. Like, New York is just 90% black. I don't know what that's about. But my husband was like, please, enough with the black. I didn't realize that, until moving out of New York. I'm like, I guess I need to let all that black go or not wear so much of it. So, I love the boldness of red and burgundy, and I love the sophistication of black.
And they all look good together. Like, it's a nice outfit, like black, burgundy, and red. Like, the colors all go good together. It kind of goes into the question here: what color matches your creative energy right now? And we're talking about red, burgundy, and black. So are those the colors that kind of match your energy right now?
I would say I would have to throw some green in there because I'm definitely growing.
She slides the green in. You see, Katherine, this is what you said. You said if the cup was half empty, you're filling it up. Well, it was already full with the black, the red, and burgundy. She's throwing green in there.
Yes, because I'm growing and learning as I move through this publishing journey. I thought I knew a lot about the publishing industry, but owning your own publishing company is a whole different story. So there's so many different nuances that as much as I studied it, I'm learning as I'm working in the industry. So that's been super interesting. Yeah.
So, Catherine, what has surprised you the most about your writing?
The most surprising thing I think is I have leaned into discomfort.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I have found that I grow when it feels really awkward. And so for me, discomfort shows up when I step into something new. And uh, for me, I have been working on, naming the discomfort instead of avoiding it. Like, Katherine, what is making you uncomfortable? Okay, I don't know enough about this. So let's name that and let's acknowledge it. Okay. So, because if you can't deal with it, if you're not acknowledging it, I give myself permission to be a beginner. Um, I let go of the pressure to perform perfectly and embrace the learning curve. You know, especially with my first two authors, this was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking about, but it's done. I did it. I signed these two authors. They did not have books written, and they had a timeline. They wanted to produce their books for a particular conference. And I said, if you listen to me and you follow the publishing timeline that I give you, you will get it done. They wrote their books in 4 months. I mean, they wrote their books in 4 months, published it, got it out, and their books are actually they're doing well. One book in particular was just signed as in a contract to have her book featured at a major conference center. They're investing in her particular book. So, yeah, that was crazy. And I learned by doing and not waiting. I reflect on my mistakes with curiosity instead of shame. And I remember why I say yes to the call. When discomfort rises, I try to reconnect with my purpose.
Well, discomfort is a part of growing as well, right? We don't grow if we don't get uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to write your book, Catherine? Is that why you're like, they wrote it in 4 months?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, actually, every night I would be like, I can't believe I asked them to do this, but I knew that they could pull it off. Like, I will believe in you. And they did it. So that's history in the making. But for me, oh my gosh, like I told you before, I wrote a couple of different books that were just hot garbage. So the path to my first debut thriller, my God, it was like 20 years in the making. But from start to finish, actually writing this particular book, it took me 10 months. So 10 months was what it took.
Well, and it takes time to put a good book out there, and it's okay to have a couple of books that you feel that I'm sure all of those books were amazing, Catherine, but this one, they were learning steps, right? They were growing steps. You gotta write bad stories in order to get to a good story.
Yeah. They had seeds of hopefulness, but every time I take them out and look at them and see, is there anything redeemable in here? I'm like, nah. No.
So do you do that, Catherine? Do you pull from different books for new books?
Yes. So I actually, the start of a fifth of the story came from a book of short stories that I had written. And I don't know what I was thinking about. I thought this was fun. While I was in my doctoral program writing my dissertation, I thought it would be fun to also write a book of short stories. I told you, I didn't grow up with TV. So what's fun for me and other people is very different. And the seed of the idea came from one of those short stories, and I fleshed it out to become a full blown book. Yeah.
I like that. The seed of an ideal. I like that. That sounds like a good, interesting book there, Catherine.
Yeah.
Catherine,
Yeah.
what is the most courageous story you've ever written?
The most courageous story. Well, I feel it was my dissertation when I confronted the things in my past that had happened to me. That was really courageous because you put yourself out there. Put myself out there to my dissertation committee. I knew that my colleagues were going to read it. It's out there it's in the library of Arizona State University. It's in the library, and I knew my parents were going to read it, and so that was tough. That was tough, but I think each of our experiences are building blocks for our other experiences and breakthroughs, and so it was then easier for me to write the story about this young immigrant who is actually a victim of trafficking. That has been a very difficult book for me to write because it deals with hard, difficult things. But it has been easier because of my first experience with my dissertation.
So, Catherine, do you enjoy writing suspense and thrillers and true facts about history, like immigrants and racism and extremism? Do you feel that your purpose in life is to bring that voice to the table through your storytelling?
I do, and I feel that I'm equipped because I'm a person who is layered ethnically. Like my mother's ancestors, they were immigrants from Portugal. They were Jewish and ended up in Jamaica, of all places. And then in their family, there's African and there's Irish, and then on my father's side of the family, there's Scottish. His side of the family was started because of a Scottish slave trade in Jamaica. So our family is very diverse looking. And I have relatives that are really dark, but I have relatives that are blonde with, blue eyes and fair skin. I saw how people interacted with my parents. People thought my parents were a mixed race couple, and in the truth, they really weren't. They thought my mom was white and my dad was black. Well, my mom was mixed. They were both mixed. But you saw the dynamics of how people treated them. And then our siblings, we all looked different. Some were racially ambiguous, right? And you saw how people would treat them versus others. And so I feel like we grew up with a love for people's hearts. And my parents always taught us that. It's not about the exterior, it's about your heart. It's about who you are inside. And I saw that reflected in my parents' friendships, in their families. They had an eclectic group of friends, eclectic people in their church, and very diverse people in their family. And so it helps me to write from a place where I see lots of different sides. And it helps me to really discover truth and growth and all of those things. But I don't just write about that. I also write for a number of magazines and blogs. And I also love devotions. I put out 3 devotions so far. I put out one every year, and it's a compilation of myself with other authors.
Let's talk about devotions and your faith, Catherine. Mm-hmm. What is one thing that has really opened your eyes writing devotion and sharing your faith with others?
Well, devotionals invite readers to slow down and consider deeper questions about motives and choices and the ripple effects of our actions. And I don't write alone. I have a blog. A blog is called Dressing in God's Love and the Man Cave. So we have men who they're men who write for men. Men know how to talk to each other. But our devotionals offer direct encouragement and scripture-centered reflection.
What did you call that? You said man cave. What did you say before man cave, Catherine?
Dressing in God's Love. Yeah, so it's on my website, and it's usually about 10 of us who contribute weekly encouragement to other people, and it's sent out every Friday. We send out encouragement, and I spend a lot of time in training our writers. We do not pretend to be perfect patties. We're really transparent. And in the new devotional book that was just released a few weeks ago, one of the devotions in there is about a man who's his whole life is in ministry, but he's so transparent. He talks about his wife who had several suicide attempts. That's really difficult for someone who has worked in ministry to be transparent about that. So I love that in the devotions we get to say, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm not better. But because God is the center of my life, I'm better off. Because even though these tough things happen to me, this is how I got through it. Or this is how I'm going through it.
Well, we just had a question that came in, and it says, how does your faith inform your storytelling, especially within suspense?
How does my faith
inform your storytelling? Inform? INFORM. Inform.
Yeah. So my faith informs my storytelling,
especially within suspense.
It mirrors reality in the personal lives of people I know, where hidden motives, unspoken histories, unexamined biases quietly shape our decisions. So the two, even though they're so different, both the novel and devotional, they continue to invite our readers to examine, what is life about and how do I get through it successfully? And so together, whether I'm writing suspense or I'm writing a devotional, together they reflect this consistent calling to my work to create spaces where storytelling and faith intersect.
Well, Catherine, if anybody wanted to get your books, where could they get them? And if you could spell out your website for the audio listeners.
Sure. So my website is Dr. Katherine-Hayes. I leave out the other last name for all of our sakes, so we're not typing for 4 hours. So it's DrKatherine-Hayes.com. Easy. That's where all the things are. You can actually send me an email from there. You can connect with me on Instagram. I love Instagram. It's a friendly space. And I'm on X, formerly Twitter. I'm on Threads, but I like to hang out on Instagram. I'm on Facebook and X. So you can connect with me. I love to connect with others. If people are thinking about a book, they're open submissions in January and July. Those two were open.
Well, we got some little glitches going on here with the technology. So, Catherine, opening up and sharing about your faith and your life and your overcomings and becoming a survivor, and sharing your voice with others and getting them to share their stories as well. You do a lot of mentorship as well. What type of mentorships, and where can people find you to get some mentoring from? Can they find it on your website as well? Or do you work with certain nonprofits or organizations out there?
I work with lightforthefuture.org. there. I'm on their board, and I actually teach art virtually to our students in Guatemala. And I'm also on the board of 540. It's a writing community. But if you are specifically looking for mentorship in writing, it's one of my favorite things to do. And all the details are on my website at drkatherinehayes.com. Yeah. I love to mentor other authors. I think that's exactly where we grow. Mentors grow by having people that they mentor. And having a mentee is, if you're not meant to keep them forever as a mentor, they're supposed to grow and develop and fly the nest.
Well, we just got a question that came in, and I want to get it out to you, Katherine. It is, what role does mentorship play in your work with writers' communities?
Yeah, so I actually teach a class on mentorships, on how to be a mentor, how to be a mentee, and why it's so important. There's lots of times people, they just want to write a book and become a breakout, debut author and get on the New York Times best-selling list. And sometimes it happens, like 1 in a million. Like you can make the NFL or the NFL, right? It could happen, but more than often it doesn't. And our climb into the industry in terms of publishing, it's like a slow burn. And it's super important to network, and it's important to be diplomatic, and it's important to pay it forward, pay it backward, never burn your bridges, and to be, kindness always works.
And we have a question here about your podcast, and it is, what has your podcast taught you about human nature, fear, and redemption?
Fear and redemption. Did you say fear and redemption?
Yeah. Fear and redemption.
Yeah, so I have interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. But I found that we are so much more alike than we are different. I interview people who are, it doesn't matter what religion or what, we just need to have writing in common and we're good to go. And I just find that, oh my gosh, we are so much more alike than we are different. And if people could concentrate more on that, that would be so much better. The other thing that was really interesting, the hardest guest I've ever had was, his name is Michael Hingston. And I was intimidated. I'm usually not intimidated, but he's completely blind. He's blind at birth. And he's known for writing this book called Thunderdog. It became a movie. And Michael Hingston is probably one of the most profound inventors of devices for the seeing and hearing impaired. And he worked in the World Trade Center when it was hit, 9/11. And him and his seeing eye dog led hundreds of people to safety and saved many lives. And that was his how he became really well known. Well, I that was really shocked how nervous I was, and he couldn't see me. But he was so self-assured, and he was so confident. It really taught me a lot about, wow, just really knowing yourself and loving all of you despite what other people might see as shortcomings. He told me he didn't see his lack of sight as a shortcoming. He said that he had many other gifts. And in fact, he said, I have a strength that you see as a weakness. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He said, well, like, for instance, I didn't need lights to get down and help people down the steps of the World Trade Center. And in fact, I save money, but I can work in the dark, and I can find things and you can find
That's
them.
a good sense of humor.
Okay, yeah, that's funny. Okay.
I've met Michael, and I was amazed on how much positive the man was. He doesn't look at his eyesight as you know he really encourages people to see within themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
And
felt the same way when I met him too, Catherine. I felt a little intimidated. He couldn't see me, but it was like he's going to see me. Like
yeah.
in a way, he has
Yeah.
his way of doing it. Michael is an incredible individual. He's been on Tea Time. I've been on his platform as well. Incredible person. Uh,
Yes.
Catherine, what final message do you have for all the listeners out there tonight about your book and about your story and what difference writing has made in your life?
Yeah. So writing has been an incredible outlet. I told you from the very beginning, I loved words, started tracing them and all of that. But writing was an outlet. And writing is the key, right? It is the key to preserving humanity. It's our way of being creative. We people talk about the fight with AI and all that. Well, just don't worry about it. Just continue to pour out your words in a creative way. Don't worry about AI. Let's preserve being creative with our words. Let's preserve being as unique as possible and staying true to our own voice. And there's a space for every voice, no matter how distinct or different. We were created for this time. So I like to leave people with this. You were created for this time. Okay. You're not an accident. You are not a mishap. You're not in the wrong place. You are right where you're supposed to be. So even if you're not a writer, and if you are, I'm definitely speaking to you, then use your words for good to give you and others a future and a hope. And for all of us, even whether we're writers or not, our words are our most positive ways that we can connect with others. We can use it to build bridges instead of walls. And I see way too many walls being built nowadays. I want to see some more bridges with our words, whether it's spoken or written.
We need more bridges out there. But I'm just going to do a wrap up of tonight's tea time. And I want to really thank you, Catherine, for joining me again. What a powerful and thoughtful tea time. Catherine, thank you for reminding us that stories do more than entertain. They reveal truth, build courage, and offer light where it is most needed. You've showed us that writing with purpose requires bravery and that faith and creativity can walk hand in hand without compromise. Today's conversation affirms that darkness does not win when we choose to tell stories with integrity, conviction, and heart. Words matter, voice matters, and when we use them wisely, they can become instruments of healing and hope. To everyone listening, may you leave this tea time encouraged to speak truth, create boldly, and trust that your words carry impact beyond what you can see. Until we gather again, keep writing, keep believing, and keep serving light one cup at a time. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow, and we'll do this all over again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.